So that was not your Bill Monroe bluegrass there.
No.
I dug it though.
Yeah, I liked it. It's about the third time I've heard it. I liked it when because through the computer here it's pulled back, and I got a cleaner perspective on what was happening. It's because earlier, a really good version of it on YouTube with phones on, I just felt like I was being bombarded.
Oh, it wasn't as clear as bluegrass ordinarily is. So
Yeah, but I heard the melody in it this time, and it took a couple of listenings, and
but
yeah,
also the melody was so outside the normal G run, G riff texture, right? There was some other stuff going on there intervallically.
yeah,
Very cool.
and inventive, and like a good sense of humor about it too, like
Yeah, right.
good entertainment too. Yeah,
Yeah, and his videos are pretty wild, and a lot of his other pieces, I mean, get very experimental and strange. This is kind of one of the more straight ahead kind of pieces, actually.
all right.
But it did have that wild solo, and he kind of seems to have an approach like any note can follow any other note, and I'm going to go stabbing around to find them.
Yeah,
That's cool.
he's a little bit like Dewey Cox in Walk Hard, the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cocaine era.
Right.
I mean, I'm not
my God.
accusing him of anything, but there's a lot of energy going
Well,
on.
he's obviously got like a tweak thing going on for sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
tweaker
yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, he's
But also that piece was Roma, Gypsy, Bartok kind of
Yeah.
in the beginning, and then you hear the legit bluegrass chops coming through a little bit too. It's cool.
And I kind of liked, I liked what the fiddle was doing, that
Right. I
kind
mean,
of
that's
Beatle-like orchestration.
yeah, but
too.
that's really unorthodox for the quote unquote genre, right? You're not supposed to be doing that.
Yeah, I think they're in their own genre there. It's
Yeah.
yeah,
it's
crazy Berkeley kids genre.
Yeah, and some of the stuff it does have a kind of they're scratching and playing ugly, kind of there's a punk rock kind of thing to it too, where it's not that every little note is kind of perfectly formed and shaped, and he's kind of bouncing around, with these kind of out crazy kind of ideas and things, and so it's rubbing off on everybody else, and so there's a kind of youthful nuttiness to the whole thing, but there's obviously a very interesting musical mind, and I'm looking forward to see what he comes up with next. Yeah.
Yep.
So our final piece here is by Mark O'Connor, and Mark O'Connor was a child virtuoso, and he had won the National Fiddlin' Championship at age 11, and then won guitar at 13 or something, and then mandolin when he was 16. And anything he touched with strings, he mastered quickly at a young age.
Don't let him play sax.
That I bet he hasn't done yet. But and then he replaced Tony Rice as the guitarist in the David Grisman Quintet. And I remember, it was like, wait, the fiddle guy is playing the guitar? Like, what? And he would slum it on fiddle occasionally with that band, too, doing duets with Stefan Grappelli. And he was, 16 or 17 then, right, Todd?
Something like that. Yeah, I mean, Tony and I left at the same time, and yeah, I guess he was pretty young. I'm not sure. Of course, I wasn't in the band then, so
So you...
I don't know. I don't know his exact age at that time.
Yeah, so, and anyway, so he went on to do a lot of solo records through his teens, into the 20s, and then played briefly with the Dixie Dregs and Steve Morse, kind of that fusion thing where I think he was kind of trying to connect to electric music and things like that, and then ended up in Nashville as number one session musician on fiddle in particular, but it seemed like he could get called for any instrument. And reading some of the liner notes to this new album called Markology 2, Bela Fleck said that the electric bass players got nervous when he started getting calls to play electric bass, and So he's kind of a technical whiz at all these different things. But part of his story was that way back when, 40 years ago, he developed bursitis in his elbow and had to give up guitar and felt like that was kind of done. And so he went full into his violin thing where he's created a whole new school of study of how to do the violin and had a big controversy with, what's the name of the group, Timo, that does the violin studies with little kids? Suzuki. He had a big spat with them. He's very negative about the Suzuki approach and and had his own thing and also he's kind of championed fiddle playing and American fiddle playing as a little bit like the concept of our show, virtuosity without hierarchy. And he has been introducing the canon of fiddle tunes into the classical repertoire.
Yeah, why should there be any divide there?
Right? It's all Europeans and all that. And he's like, why are we ignoring, the great fiddle tunes and fiddling techniques and things? And so he started composing orchestral works and has had a bunch of those kind of things done. And also he's lately he's always worn his politics on his sleeve, and he's really been vocal as an anti-Trump kind of guy and kind of stepped into political waters that a lot of musicians shy away from, because especially if you're a country and bluegrass,
that's bad for biz.
Country and bluegrass fiddler, he's got a lot of fans that are.
Since most bluegrass people have a couple hundred fans, you can't afford to lose half of them.
Exactly. So that's been interesting to see, that he put his stakes down as a true blue liberal, and so suddenly he picked up the guitar and realized that his elbow was okay. So he recorded this first guitar recording in over 40 years.
Now, in my travels, there's a whole set of badass musicians who play mandolin, guitar, violin, and 12-string, and they play it upside down. And right, isn't this that's a country music thing?
Well,
right?
There's a few people like that. Justin Moses, do you guys know his name?
Roy Clark, right? I mean,
Roy, yeah.
Joe Maphis, yeah, definitely. There's been those players who can kind of cover all those different things, and I think they grow up with those instruments lying around.
Exactly.
Then there's Joe Craven, who plays all the percussion instruments and fiddle and violin, and has a whole rhythm thing he does too.
Now, I think being able to play the guitar as a secondary instrument is one thing. Playing violin as a secondary instrument, no way.
Yeah.
That instrument takes a level of devotion. It's like playing, you don't play trumpet as like I just monkey around with a trumpet. No, that's not happening. Like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, fiddle is way too serious. But
yeah, it doesn't play it in tune. Doesn't have any technique for the
I tried
thing.
when I inherited a fiddle from a neighbor and quickly put it down in the closet, never looked at it again.
I got one in the case over here. It doesn't come out of the case very often. Yeah.
But I think you're right, Timo, that Mark O'Connor starting on the fiddle, Stuart Duncan, right? He plays mandolin and some other instruments, and
yeah, he can play banjo, fiddle,
but
mandolin.
But he was started as a fiddle player as well. So let's listen to an original piece that I think kind of grew out of kind of improvisations Mark would do, and here's a piece called "Flailing."